What's good, everyone? This your main correspondent, Alan Taylor, and I'm back in the broadcast room yet again. And this is where we at here. So apparently, USDA found millions of dollars in fraud here recently. And thank God these people are out here, finding this stuff out. So yes, it's people under arrest. It is. And we're going to see what's going on here with all this money that's going on in the food stamp situation, man. Listen, look, it is crazy out here. Let's go here now. Quarters, nickels, and dimes, people.
Tonight, 6 people are now charged with a huge fraud and bribery scam targeting food stamps. Listen to this. One of the arrested people in this, a USA employee, that's the government agency that oversees food stamp benefits. According to the Justice Department, the group set up a network that supplied approximately 160 unauthorized EBT terminals to stores across the New York area. Those terminals then illegally processed more than $30 million in EBT transactions. And the USDA employee who's charged actually worked in the division responsible for identifying food stamp fraud. Earlier this month, we highlighted a national scam in our special report, Faces of the Forgotten. Thousands of people in Alabama have had millions of dollars stolen from their EBT accounts. And for the last 5 months, they say they have not been reimbursed.
Now, I remember when that started going down and things like that people's food stamps were getting stolen off their cards. It not just, all over the United States, California, all places. I remember when they was talking about that in the news. And also, they just released a statement from the Trump administration that they will not be reimbursing these individuals whose food stamps were, actually stolen, which I'm kind of tit for tat on that. Your stuff gets stolen. It is what it is. But yeah, though, this is wild right here. So listen, look, we're going to keep going because we got a little bit more to dive off into. These people, yes, it is time that we get these bats out of these places where they're in charge of all these millions of dollars worth of goods and services and money and stuff like that. Man, it's time for these people to go. Let's go here now.
But first, there's this. A Department of Agriculture employee and 5 others under arrest this morning, accused of a multi-million-dollar food stamp fraud and bribery scheme. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York calling this one of the largest food stamp frauds in U.S. history. Joining me now is the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins. Secretary, it's great to have you this morning. What can you tell us about this?
Well, good morning, Maria. It's always so great to be with you. And you are coming from one of my favorite places in America. So it's really great to see you there. Listen, this is a new day. And President Trump promised as he was traveling across the country over the last few years that it would not be the government that we know. The government certainly that under Joe Biden exponentially grew. And alongside that, including the fraud and waste and abuse. And so at USDA, we are hyper focused on rooting out that waste, fraud, and abuse. And to your point, yesterday was, if not the largest, one of the largest stings. And moving forward and finding that fraud, I think almost $70 million that is no longer going to be allowed here in Washington and with these programs like the food stamp program. So we're going to move forward, obviously, in partnership with the FBI, with the Department of Justice, of course, our team at USDA. This is not the one and only. There are going to be many more to come. And we're going to make sure that we're delivering on our promises to the taxpayers.
Yes, I'm definitely happy for that. I'm saying? Shout out to that. This is definitely needed. And, for all these bats out here that's been taking money all these decades and stuff like that, because this ain't just start. This didn't just start under the Biden administration. I know we like to throw things on the Biden administration because they just did the most treacherous things these past 4 years, and I get that. But this has been going on for decades. People have been stealing money behind the scenes, food stamp and stuff like that, and also in other avenues of the government and things like that. Also in our war system in the government, they've been, rearranging money and stuff like that. I'm curious to see how the black budget is working. We keep forgetting about the black budget out here. Nobody's talking about that. But, at the same time, though, too, only the president is allowed to see what's going on with that. So, yeah, it just is what it is at that fact. Let's keep going.
So the prosecutors and the authorities are saying that this person defrauded the SNAP program, right? The also known as food stamps, $66 million in unauthorized transactions.
That's right. Well, the food stamp program is one of the largest government programs across the federal government. And obviously, I've talked on this show and other shows that it's time for real effective change. Part of that $200 billion annual program, the best sort of estimate is between 20 to 30% of that is fraud, waste, and abuse. The $66 million that was announced yesterday on behalf of USDA and the others that were part of that, again, is just the tip of the spear. And the way that works, Maria, the EBT cards is what USDA, the government, uses to provide that supplemental nutrition assistance, which is the food stamps, and that it's a fairly easy thing to do. We're trying to lock it down right now to ensure that it doesn't keep happening. But when you've got employees that basically don't follow the law, then we've got to fix it, and that's what we're doing. There's going to be real consequences for breaking the law across America's federal government with President Trump, but this is just one of many more to come.
Well, we definitely want to see consequences and accountability, but let me move on. Secretary, you approved state waivers to make America healthy again by removing unhealthy foods from the SNAP programs in Indiana and Iowa. On Monday, you approved the first ever state waiver to restrict soda and energy drinks from the food stamps in Nebraska. You're really zeroing in on health and wellness for our young people and everyone else. Your thoughts? Tell us more.
Well, I am really proud. I'll be honest with you. I'm a little surprised that this hasn't happened before, right? It's just common sense. This is the age maybe of common sense in Washington, that taxpayer dollars were being used to fund lower income Americans' purchase of sugary drinks and junk food. Now, if they want to use their own money to do that, of course, that's fine. It may not be the best health choices, but the fact that taxpayers have been funding this in a massive program, the number one purchase with using taxpayer dollars was on sugary drinks. So I guess for years, none of those waivers that have been submitted by the states have been approved, but we already approved Nebraska was first. Iowa and Indiana were last week. And then we've got several more announcements in the coming week, and then hopefully many, many more to follow. And this is bipartisan, Maria. This is not just, Republican governors. It's Republican and Democrat working together to ensure that we're providing the right sort of programming that we need for our lower income Americans.
Shout out to that.
So what the French toast is there to think about?
And it's definitely time. I'm surprised that for all these decades that these mothers and stuff like that have been able to, purchase these things with EBT and stuff like that. It is time to cut that out. They said that's the number one purchase is sugary drinks. This is crazy. No fruits, vegetables, not even water out here. This is crazy. You're over 75% water in your body. You need water. You need water. It's not a want. You actually need water for your body to work properly and for you to think properly. You need that to keep your electrolytes going, all types of stuff. Man, this is crazy, bro. And we wonder why our children are not, mentally healthy. We're stuffing all this stuff in our kids and things like that, and they can't think properly. They can't, be properly motivated because all these sugary drinks and sugars and soda cereals, all this type of stuff is filled with so much sugar. Till it's just weighing our children down, and nobody can think properly when you're weighed down. Children, adults, it doesn't matter if you're not eating healthy or trying to eat as healthy as possible. It has to be a balance. I get it. We like pizza with things. I like stuff like that too. I like a soda and I like that stuff too. We were all raised on that, but we have to balance these situations out, man. You have to balance with fruits and stuff like that. You have to eat some fruits and vegetables and the things that are nutritious for you as well. It just is what it is, man. I'm glad to see that it's going down like this. I'm glad to see that they are catching these people with this fraud. They need to go head on and start prosecuting these individuals and making sure that we lock these dumbass people up for making these stupid moves. For real though. I'm also definitely glad that we are, rearranging, the way that people can use SNAP and EBT cards for what they need to actually buy versus what they want to buy. Yes. And, regardless of whether people are mad about it or not, it's time for a change. But it is what it is, though. Shout out to all my subscribers. Mad love to y'all. If you're new to the channel, please hit that like, share, subscribe button. Make sure you ring that bell to be notified whenever I decide to post things. And like I always say,
and that, my friends, is the bottom line.
That, my friends, is the bottom line.